In this episode, we will look at the role of another lady, Rabab bint Imra al-Qais. The journey to Karbala for Lady Rabab was not easy. She was travelling with Ali Asghar, who was at the time just 1 month old when they left Medina, and Sukaina was also very young. Indeed, the day of Ashura was also a real test for her. On one side, she faced the fear of losing a loving husband who had been left alone after his companions had been brutally killed, and on the other side, she faced the heartbreaking sight of her little girl being extremely thirsty and in sorrow over losing her uncle Abbas. Then there was also her baby boy, who showed his dry tongue to her as a desperate sign that he is dying of thirst. This helplessness was unbearable for Lady Rabab to see in her loved ones. Yazid's forces had decided that no matter what, they would not allow Imam Hussein and his companions to retrieve water from the river Euphrates. So it left Lady Rabab with no option but to bring Ali Asghar to the battlefield. Yazid's army set new standards of barbarism on that day after killing this innocent baby. Yazid's corrupt practices were sabotaging everything that Islam had brought. For instance, Prophet Muhammad categorically mentioned and instructed his army that it is the responsibility of every soldier to protect and not hurt women and children during any war. The Holy Prophet even instructed that prisoners of war should not be humiliated. But when we look at Karbala, the Umayyad leader Yazid ibn Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan did not only disobey the instructions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, but he set new precedents for brutality which is not even found in the age of ignorance. Despite all of this, if we think and put ourselves in the shoes of this mother, we may feel what kind of trauma she had been through. Such were the miseries of Lady Rabab. When she came to Karbala, she had a husband and beautiful children, but when she left, she was all alone. Some historians write that when Imam Hussein died, Lady Rabab spent a year in grief at Imam Hussein's grave. Moreover, when proposed to, she refused to remarry. She dedicated her remaining life to the grief of her family, and she was not the only one who dedicated her life in remembrance of those who died in Karbala. Imam Zain al-Abidin and other ladies who survived Yazid's captivity never stopped mourning. This was the effect of Karbala. Those who survived, even though they physically were present at different cities and homes, their souls always remained back in Karbala. They always mourned the tragic day of Ashura and the oppression of Yazid and his forces. Ramla was the wife of the second Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, and the mother of Qasim. Her full name was Ramla bint Salil ibn Abdullah al-Bajli. There is a difference of opinion over her name. Few say that her name was Ramla, but other historians say that the name of Qasim's mother appears as Farwa. Difference over her name is more cultural, for example between Arab and non-Arab historians. But there is a consensus around her presence during the tragedy of Karbala. After the death of Imam Hassan, Lady Ramla did not go back to her house, as widows usually do, but she remained in Medina and took care of Qasim. When Imam Hussein was leaving for Karbala, she then joined the caravan with her young Qasim. Any lady would hesitate or show reluctance to send their son to a battlefield, but Lady Ramla was a lady of strong character. Karbala was the place where every mother wanted her son to be sacrificed first. When Lady Ramla came to know that her son was being stopped by Imam Hussein, she protested and requested that her son Qasim be permitted to be sacrificed before Ali Akbar. She realized that her husband Imam Hassan gave a will to her for the day of Ashura. The eagerness to send her son to the battlefield was to protect her Imam. When Qasim came onto the battlefield, Umar ibn Sa'd saw him and said,
"By God, I'm going to attack him."
When Umar ibn Sa'd struck Qasim, he fell as a result, and Qasim called out to his uncle Imam Hussein for help. Imam Hussein rushed to pick up the deceased Qasim, and when he was carrying him back to the camp, Imam Hussein said,
"May the people who killed you be deprived of God's mercy, because the one who will take them to task on the day of judgment on your behalf will be your grandfather. By God, it is difficult for your uncle to bear the thought that you called out to him and he was unable to respond to your call, or he tried to save your life but to no avail. By God, the number of people who are prepared to kill us are many and the helpers few."
There is not a lot of information about what happened to Lady Ramla after Qasim's martyrdom, but one can imagine that to lose your child to attacking soldiers must have been a heartbreaking and traumatic sight. And Lady Ramla was not the only mother who witnessed this horror and lost her child. In fact, there is a long list of women who presented their sons for this divine sacrifice.